Welcome back to part 2 of the German ambush as part of Sea Power. In this scenario, I have a couple of Soviet ships that need to be eliminated as they're passing through the Baltic. We have 3 German submarines in position, ready to strike. In part 1 to this video, I was able to take down a flight of MiGs, thereby taking this guy's back. This should ensure the safety of my P-3 Orions, both the aerial surveillance one and the one capable of going after the Soviets with harpoons. Time for part 2. Where we engage the Soviet task force. It's a little later now and I've engaged these 2 Grishes, but not without getting these guys a bit more difficulty. They're getting jammed by an EA-6B all the way up here. This jamming device hopefully will make their radars far less effective, and they will not see the harm that is coming their way. These P-3s, which are currently returning to base, have dropped 4 harpoons each, and they're now going to go back to base, rearm, and potentially come back for more. Maybe I won't even need the submarines, which, again, is not really what I had in mind when I created the scenario. But I wasn't aware that the P-3s, in apparently this version, can now actually carry those missiles. And hey, if you got harpoons at your disposal, why not use them? Well, there is one reason why you might not want to use them. There's a tanker pretty close to that Grisha. If that harpoon decides that that tanker is a far juicier target, well, let's say that's not very good for my relationship with, in this case, the Americans. Because this is an American tanker. So far, though, it seems to be decent. The range from the Grishas is about 28 miles. They shall return fire, most likely, if they detect the missiles at 8 miles. And that's a big if they detect the missiles. This, with the SAN-1, can return at 16 miles. And then back there we have the Cresta, which has the SAN-1 for 16 miles as well. So these are potentially vulnerable, because they're slightly farther afield. Let's see how it goes. There's the formation up ahead. We're now 6 miles out, and I'm not seeing anything as a response to these harpoons yet. So maybe these radars are getting properly jammed, so much so that they're completely unable to return fire, at least not yet. Yep, there's the return fire. So about 3 miles they detected the missiles and started taking action. Are these guys far enough away from the rest of the fleet to get killed off or not? They're definitely popping chaff. That's 3 harpoons going up. I think I might only need 1. There's 1 hit. Yeah, he's completely destroyed. These other missiles, however, I'm not sure where they're going. But they all missed the other Grisha. So they're now coming under sea whiz fire from that cannon. The hell? I've seen missiles miss on occasion, but not all 4. They're sea skimming, right? These guys never came out of their sea skim mode. And now they're out of range. Okay, so anyway, we did eliminate 1 Grisha, that's nice. And that means that the submarines might have a slightly easier time approaching this formation and getting some kills on those vital ships. Several of my submarines are now within weapons range. I can engage this Grisha at 8 miles. The problem is, it might run away. My torps really don't have that much range, and on top of that they're not that quick, they can only do 40 knots. Which means if this thing turns tail and starts to just head out of there at 32 knots, it's not a whole lot that they need to do just to get out of there. So I'm going to try and get this guy a little closer. I'm also pushing U-23 a bit southeast at 5 knots. They are snorkeling. U-22 has already completed snorkeling and can secure the snorkel mast. I'm going to keep them down. That Grisha, can we see that? Has to be somewhere towards here. But it's still 8 miles out. Interestingly, they were doing pretty decent speed, and now they're slowed down to 6. They might be listening out. Are they concerned? Are they worried about something? Perhaps they should be. I'd much rather they weren't. The real prize? Taking out the Cresta. Which means that this U-21 is kind of poorly positioned. Should have relocated her when I had the chance. U-22 also has her in weapons range. But I'd much rather this thing speed up first. I wanted to get def. I don't want it to get any kind of warning that there's a torpedo on the way. There's the dead Grisha, and there is the Rogov, the landing ship. Here's the... Wait, you swapped location? I guess it's possible. No, you didn't. You're still behind the rest of the formation. This radar image is not updating. Which is surprising. Because we got that P3 up here. Just have you patrol forward and backwards a bit. Alright, range 8.5 miles, 8.18. I can try engaging it from 2 different directions, this Grisha. And thereby maybe catching it off guard. But of course, launching a torpedo immediately gives the last bearing for my submarine away. The last known location. When I do that, I better be damn sure that either this submarine is not going to survive, or that the target does not have an opportunity to shoot back. Because if they have an opportunity to shoot back, they have a very decent chance of sinking U-22. Especially since I pretty much cannot run. Suddenly, the Soviet ships are behaving very different. This Grisha 3 is turning away at 28 knots. The cannon is turning at 14 knots towards the south. I don't like it. Did they detect U-22? We'll stop. It's not impossible. But if they did detect me, they would be sending weapons pretty much now. And I'm not getting anything from them. Let's get that P3 a bit farther back. Lest we lose our eyes in the sky. Cannon's doing 14 knots. The Cresta is still behind you? Yeah, it's still there. The Cresta is continuing undeterred. And has gone back to MCON. Interesting. Are my P3s back yet? Because I do need to send those boys back out. More ASW. Sorry, ASUW. Anti-surface warfare. What is causing this sudden shift in behavior? Why now? Did you learn anything? They're stationary? The hell? Now they're moving again, 14 knots. The Grisha is moving at 26 knots. See, now they're nice and deaf. They might be taking up their position in the formation again. At very high speeds. 26 knots. They tend to go 26 knots or something like that in order to get their position in the formation back. So maybe that's what they're doing. They're 7.5 miles out. You're getting way too close there, dude. The Tiger group still doesn't have range. We need 45 nautical... Sorry, we need 22 miles. Let's put a range circle on that. I'm gonna put a... Whoops. I'm gonna put a range circle on the backmost boat. Actually, no. I'm gonna break up the formation. Disband it. You're gonna go there, you're gonna go there, you're gonna go there. You're gonna go there. I remembered a comment from a while ago where somebody said the last thing we wanted to do when we were sailing with a patrol boat was be predictable. Or sail in a formation, because that just means, haha, something is coming at you. They're all the same types of contacts, they're all coming at you at the same speed. They probably mean you harm. At 1/3. I think U-22 is going to have to do some shooting soon. Because the Cresta is also in range. There is one merchantman, it's the American tanker, that is still potentially a problem. If this thing gets too close, those torpedoes could decide that this thing is so noisy, it might make for a much more interesting target. The cannon's also doing 30 knots? Ah, the cannon's location's been updated. Interesting. Let's go a little deeper. We don't really have a layer here. And the Baltic, at least in this area, is not that deep. 6 miles out. What's the range on your RBU? 3 miles. So, I'd say it's about go time. Because you still have the RBU, again at 3 miles. That still leaves the Test 71 torpedoes. But maybe I can get away with it. Okay, we're going to prepare some action. I'm going to engage the Grisha twice, I'm going to engage the cannon twice, and I'm going to engage the Cresta twice. Execute. Torpedo tubes opening. 1. Yeah, there's still 26 knots. Excellent. Torpedo away. I could try racing the submarine away, but I'm not so sure if that's going to work out too well. Oh, they've selected the Cresta. I thought we already had another 2 tubes going out for the other one. Guess not. 1 away, 2 away. I think it's going to be now or never. How deep are we? 58 feet. Head north. Head 2/3. Let's try to get at least some distance from our last known location. I'm keeping 2 torpedoes in reserve. We've got 2 of them there. 2 of them for the cannon. I think 1's going for the Cresta now. No, 2 are going for the Cresta. Okay, so it's 2, 2, 2. Very good. Well, these guys are transiting. Let's see if those P3s have taken off yet. Yeah, they have. We need to join here. We need to join here. At altitude, of course. 10,000 feet. It's okay if they see me coming. They can't really do that much about me. Yeah, see, there's the seabed. Go to a head standard. It's not that likely that these things will be able to slip away. They're too slow. As for U-21, I'd love to use this thing to go after the Rogov and the Chilkin, but we're gonna have to speed up a little bit, which is something I don't really want to do when there's an anti-submarine frigate right next door. As for you, let's have you almost go due south. You do have full battery. Let's retract that snorkel mast and go a little deeper. Current speed, 8 knots. Torpedoes, about 3 miles out. Let's hope these things actually do something. Wonder when that Grisha is going to wake up and decide that this has been enough. And keep in mind they can, and potentially will, engage the torpedoes. They can just shoot the torpedoes out of the water. If they get enough warning. And at 26 knots, these guys are making a lot of noise themselves. Nevertheless, I think they can just shoot at pretty point-blank range. Range, 1.5. Over here, well, they're a little bit farther out. 1.4. 1.3. 1.2. Torpedoes going back up to the surface, 1 mile out. Are they oblivious? 900? 800? Oh, the Tiger classes have arrived. Good. Oh, they're completely oblivious. Now he activates the sonar, but that's too late. That was a hit. That was a hit. There's a noisemaker in the water. Ooh, you're looking pretty bad there, son. I do imagine that this cannon now considers itself threatened. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to listen? And understand that there's a massive threat coming your way? Are you going to use your RBUs? What's the plan? For now, it's just sitting. There's active sonar. There we go! That's the RBUs. which did manage to hit a torpedo. They're just building a wall of depth charges. But only against the one side. They were kind of dropping their depth charges against the torpedoes that were meant for the Cresta, I think. Cannons coming back. We got 2 torps still in the water at about 8. Yeah, 0.8. I hope that noisemaker isn't gonna get the drop on my torpedoes. I'm not gonna get fooled. There's a noisemaker here from probably the Cresta class cruiser. Oh, come on. It's right there. Damn it, their position isn't accurate. So the torpedoes don't exactly know where to go. Oh, come on. Unless this isn't accurate. I think they're searching now. Cresta's running away north. Right into the open arms of the U-23. Torps are heading a bit farther south. I'm surprised that they haven't fired back at the bearing. Like the last known, or at least the origin of the torpedo. Send 2 more. Due south. Battery? 96%, we're good. The torpedoes are searching. Unsuccessfully so. I really hope that these torps get the cannon, because I don't want to have to give the position of the U-23 away. Not yet. The U-22 is now out of weapons. So I'm going to have to try and pull this sub back. But at 2 knots, it's not that likely to be quick. Oh, hold on. There's a Z-65 in the area, see? These guys have decided to send their own torps after me. Potentially this guy. The Cresta. Z-65 torps. They have a range of 8 miles. So that puts U-22 in a safe spot. Because they can't detect that. They can't travel that far. This cannon is very quick at 34 knots. I think my torps here are going to run out of fuel. But these aren't. There's a whole spread of Z-65s in the water. Okay. Come on, get that destroyer. We're 5 miles out from the U-23. We're going up. We're going up, we're going up. He's still doing 34 knots. I think he's oblivious. If he wasn't, he'd be launching more of those depth charges against my torpedoes. The fact that he isn't seriously gives me the indication that they don't really have a clue. And we have a nice big hull right ahead of the torpedo. You can see that the picture here, I think this is accurate. This is not. Like, this torpedo is actually meeting the ship. And the ship's not there, the ship's here. Hit. See if we can hit another compartment. 2 compartments. Different sides of the ship hit. Cannon is considered immediately destroyed. Good. So we've taken out one of their Grishes. The other Grisha has already died a while ago due to a couple of harpoons. Now we've taken out their destroyer. It's nice to be picking away at their escorts, but the real prizes are running away. That's a problem. I need to have my Prowler come back here. And just wait for the P3s to get in. Because this is something that my submarines are definitely not going to be able to catch. Not at 34 knots. I'm going to have you go ahead flank. I don't care about cavitation. Limited to 11 knots. Because of cavitation. Run! Go deeper if you can. Is there any way to overrule that issue with cavitation? We're 13 knots. Ordered speed 17 knots. See, I don't trust these torps not to get a little too close here. Running away at 16 knots is definitely going to expend the battery very quickly. But hey, better no battery than no surviving submarine. So they're going 33 knots, they're going 17, going 34. Alright. I'd say so far, pretty decent attack. Next phase of the attack, target Cresta and target Sovremeni. U-23 is in a position very close. They're only 5 miles out. This does make it dangerous, because a torpedo launch might get detected, especially as they're only doing 15 knots. The Sovremeni also doing 15 knots. The other two ships, the Rogov and the Chilikin, still chilling in the back. I'm going to launch with the U-23. Actually, no, let's launch with the U-21. The reason is, I want to make sure that if they get flushed, they're going to get flushed towards the north, right into the open arms of the U-23. And as they're running away, they have a potential of getting torpedoed by the U-23. Also, if I launch now with U-23, it might make too much noise, and I don't want to do that. So we got 4 torps out there. Let's head northeast. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that we stay at 5 knots. My P3s, they are in the area. I can jam this area as well. No, I first want to see how the torpedoes do. Because mixing torpedoes and air defense doesn't necessarily do much, I think. It doesn't overwhelm the crew, for example. It doesn't overwhelm the amount of anti-air systems that they have, or, anti-missile defenses. It doesn't really do that. So I just want to let the torpedoes swim for a second. It's quite the swim for them. It doesn't mean that they don't have that much potential for chasing the target. Chilikin is also in range. That almost due north. They're only 4.5 miles out from the U-23. Cresta and Sovremeni seemingly unaware of what's coming their way. 15 knots. It's so difficult not to launch with the U-23, but I'm almost on top of them. Come on. Range, 4 miles. They are moving due west, so I'm not quite coming in on their wake. But maybe by the time that they're there, my torpedo is there, so I might be coming in sort of behind them. Torpedoes 2 miles out from the Sovremeni and closing fast. The Cresta is a bit farther away, about 2.4. So it's most likely going to be the Sovremeni that first detects and then responds to these torpedoes. Jamming them is not going to have any effect. I mean, yeah, I can jam them just to freak them out a little bit, but that's about it. Engage track 7035. There, now they're jammed. 1.2 knots. 1-1. 1 knot. Sorry, 1 mile. 0.9. 0.8. 0.7. Torpedoes are coming up. There we go. There's the depth charges. And one torpedo got intercepted. The other one's still going. The other torpedo is now also coming up to the surface. I'm not convinced it's going the right way. It's almost like it's going for that noisemaker right there. Yeah, see? Sovremeni's turning away hard, and my torpedo's not matching its course. That's not good. This Cresta over here seems to have not yet responded. Potentially not yet aware. That's a torpedo launch. I suspect. This Torp is so close. It should really be able to get him. Got it. So over many hit. Radar still spinning around, so that's still functional. I could now finish this guy off with harpoons. And these two Torps. Only 0.6 out. There we go. There's the response. Depth charges landing all around these guys in the water. You'd think. But they're landing behind them. They missed. Oh boy. I don't think you really get much of a second chance on that. Torpedo going to 130 feet. One torpedo got knocked out. Crap. Now, what I was expecting did happen. They're pushing away north. They're trying to get away from the torpedo, which of course is not going to happen. And they're trying to do that at 18 knots, but as they're turning north, they're getting very close to U-23, which is still eagerly waiting. Trying to make its mark. It does look like this Torp's going to get some real good damage in. It's a nice, juicy Soviet hull. Again, the map's not accurate. Boom. So are there many dead in the water? Looks to me like they're sinking. They did push noisemakers. I'm not seeing any torpedoes, though. That's surprising. Regarding torpedoes, U-22 is now nicely snorkeling on the surface, doing 2 knots, safely away from the combat. It did shake off, I think, 6 torps. Simply by running away. Had I not, I probably would have been dead. Okay, let's give the Cresta and the Sovramini a shot each. I'd say this ambush is working quite well. Let's also give the... Oh, there's the Rogov. Give the Rogov and the Chilikin also a torpedo each. They're heading away at 6 knots. Okay, fine. I think the danger has mostly passed. You're also going to launch 2 more Torps. There's 1. And 2. So they're now coming under attack from 2 different vectors. That should make their life a whole lot more interesting. Oh, the Sovrameni is sunk. You're dead. And this ship also be... Yeah, it appears to be taking on a lot of water. That's the Cresta. Out of commission. I really hope that my torpedoes aren't gonna grow a brain all of a sudden and decide that this tanker is a nice target. And of course, to make matters even worse for the AI, I can now also use the P3s. The Russians are gonna have a very bad day. And I think most of it was just the work of... Oh, there we go, the Crest has been eliminated. I think it was mostly the work of the torpedoes. Yes, I did get some work done with the P3s, but most of the kills so far have come from the submarines. Last of the torpedoes are arriving soon. This is going to hit the Sovrameni again. And these guys, they're stationary. They're going, fuck this. This isn't going well. Well, you're not wrong. It does seem like the Russians have given up all hope, because the Rogov is really not going anywhere. They're just sitting there stationary. And this torpedo is, well, paying that no mind. I don't care if you're just going to sit there, if you're going to run away. We'll find you. So, this guy going down. Boom. And seeing as how deadly those torpedoes were against all the other targets, I do suspect that the Rogov is not going to survive that. But for good measure, there is another torpedo coming in from the south. The other one, going for the Chilikin. And that should be it. Yeah, look at that. They're sinking very quickly. That's a lot of Russian supplies that are going right down into the water. Rogov eliminated. Of course, that torpedo doesn't give a shit. They're still going to hit the Rogov again. Much to the amusement of the guys on the life rafts, I'm sure. Gotta say, these sinking animations are so good. Because it really acts different depending on where you hit them with a torpedo. Poor ship. Boom. Yep. And the other one? It's just a fleet oiler. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be able to do anything. It does seem like this torpedo kind of missed its original mark. That doesn't matter. This guy, dead to rights. And now all we have to do is wait for that to sink. I am going to tell U-23 to get out. Because there is a risk that this torpedo suddenly decides to change course and comes looking for U-23. Yeah, there we go. Hit on the bows. Tons of water flooding into the ship. Surprisingly, it seems that my torpedoes are reluctant to hit the Chilekan. One missed, another is not exactly on the way to the Chilekan, it's heading just due north, almost like it's going to try and hit the Rogov. So it's time to use some other weapons at our disposal. A couple of harpoons are going to go in for the kill. And considering that this ship is looking pretty bad already, but it has stopped flooding, this should do it. Target up ahead and closing quick. 6 miles. 5.5. 4.5. 3.5. Oh, really? Gonna get fooled by chaff? Are you kidding? Both of you? No, you're not. This thing doesn't even have chaff. There you go. Boom. That's 1. And 2. That really ought to do him in. And there we go. After action report. All targets were considered destroyed. I did lose 3 F4Es, but that's about it. I consider this to be a successful completion of the scenario. Again, the scenario is going to become available as part of my mod pack. There is a mod/mission pack of mine on the Steam Workshop, so maybe by the time that you're watching this, if it is a little later, that is, you'll be able to download this mod pack and play these missions for yourself. If you have any suggestions on how to improve or change the scenario, by all means, let me know down below in the comments, and otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more.